Welcome to Hardly. The book is distilled into 3 stories, giving you the key ideas in minutes. Today we study together Daniel J. Siegel's Mindsight, the new science of personal transformation, in which we probe into the brain's role in personal connection and loss, rewiring the mind. Through focused attention, emotional integration as a pathway to well-being. Dr. Daniel Siegel is a clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine and received his medical degree from Harvard University. Don't go away. Hardly, the editor, will be right back with the story. Let's dive into 3 vivid, real-life examples that illustrate how personal transformation occurs when the brain, mind, and relationships come together in unexpected ways. It all begins with Leanne, a 7-year-old girl who abruptly stopped speaking at school. Leanne's world had collapsed when her mother, Barbara, returned from a traumatic car accident, not as the warm and loving mother she remembered, but as a distant, disconnected figure. Once full of life, Barbara had suffered significant brain damage, leaving her physically present but emotionally absent. The family felt the change acutely, with Leanne silently retreating into her own world. One day, during a session with her therapist, Leanne brought in an old videotape. On screen, her mother twirled her around, their laughter filling the room with joy, a stark contrast to the hollow interactions of the present. Watching her mother from the past allowed Leanne to voice what had been trapped inside. "That's how my mom used to be." This moment was crucial. Leanne wasn't just grieving the loss of her mother's physical presence, but her emotional connection. Her silence was a form of mourning. The turning point came when the therapist helped Leanne understand that her mother's broken brain meant she couldn't express love the way she once had. Understanding this gave Leanne the patience to reconnect with her mother, albeit in a different way. As the therapist noted, loss rips us apart, but only through understanding it can we begin to heal. This story is a prime example of how brain damage can sever emotional bonds, but awareness and understanding can help rebuild new pathways of connection. Leanne's journey highlights the importance of emotional recognition in healing, especially when it involves loved ones who have changed drastically. Helping children make sense of complex emotions through clear communication, such as using simple brain models or metaphors, allows them to adapt and accept their reality more easily. Barbara's story leads us to the next tale, where a seemingly minor conflict reveals deep emotional patterns. A father, exhausted after a long day, takes his children to a crepe shop. His son orders a crepe, but when his daughter asks for a bite, the father insists his son share. The son, clearly annoyed, carves out the tiniest possible piece, a sibling chess move, if you will. The daughter, unsatisfied, complains that it's not enough, and the father, already tired and stressed, loses his temper. In an instant, a simple moment of family bonding spirals into a meltdown. The father's anger surges, and soon, the family is walking back to the car in silence. What the father didn't realize in that heated moment was that he had flipped his lid, a phrase the author uses to describe losing control of our emotional responses. His brain had shifted into survival mode, bypassing the parts that promote patience, empathy, and understanding. The father reflects on this moment later, realizing he was unable to see the situation clearly. His children were simply playing their usual sibling games, but his own emotional exhaustion clouded his judgment. When we lose our minds, we can't see the game for what it is, he concludes. The father's realization is a key lesson in emotional regulation. It's about recognizing when our brains are overwhelmed and learning to pause before reacting. The key takeaway here is understanding when emotional exhaustion makes us react more harshly than necessary. By practicing mindfulness and developing Mindsight, we can train ourselves to recognize these moments of tension and respond more effectively, avoiding unnecessary conflict and hurt. As we step out of the crepe shop and leave the father to reflect on his actions, we meet Michael, a successful businessman facing his own internal chaos. On the outside, he appeared to have it all: wealth, respect, a thriving career. But on the inside, Michael was falling apart. He couldn't maintain a stable relationship, constantly felt irritable, and had a deep sense of dissatisfaction that no amount of success could fill. In therapy, it became clear that Michael was living on autopilot, stuck in repetitive emotional loops he didn't even recognize. One day, his therapist guided him through a simple breathing exercise, encouraging him to focus on the sensations in his body and the thoughts passing through his mind. At first, Michael resisted, finding the exercise pointless. But over time, he began to notice a shift. "I realized I wasn't even aware of what I was feeling most of the time," Michael admitted. His mind had been so focused on external success that he had lost touch with his own emotional landscape. Through these small but powerful exercises, Michael learned to reconnect with his emotions, gradually shifting from reactive behaviors to more thoughtful, conscious responses. Michael's story emphasizes the power of attention and mindfulness in rewiring the brain. By focusing inward, he was able to break free from destructive patterns that had ruled his life for years. The practical solution here is that through regular mindfulness practices, individuals can reshape their neural pathways, allowing them to respond to life's challenges with greater flexibility and awareness. The common thread connecting these three stories is the understanding that the mind, brain, and relationships are all intertwined. Whether it's a child mourning the emotional loss of a parent, a father navigating the frustrations of family life, or a businessman confronting his inner turmoil, each person's journey to well-being begins with understanding how their mind functions. Each case reveals the transformative potential of focused attention, how it can shift deeply ingrained emotional responses and lead to healthier relationships with ourselves and others. Whether the goal is rebuilding family bonds, managing emotions in the heat of the moment, or breaking free from negative patterns, the path to change begins with Mindsight. As the editor of Hardly, these stories teach us that by cultivating awareness of our internal world, we can shape our future interactions and even transform the neural structure of our brains. It's a reminder that personal transformation is not about external change, but about mastering the mind's inner workings. Each story comes from the most representative, real-life cases selected by the Hardly team from this book. With over 12 more fascinating examples inside, there are plenty more stories worth exploring. If you wish to dive deeper, we recommend purchasing the full book. As we revisit the key ideas from earlier, it's clear that the power of the brain, mind, and relationships forms the foundation of personal transformation. One final story solidifies this. A woman named Karen struggled with deep feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. Despite having a supportive family and a stable career, Karen found herself plagued by fears of failure and rejection. In therapy, her breakthrough came during a session where she was asked to visualize a traumatic event from her childhood. For the first time, Karen realized that her adult fears were echoes of a past wound. I'm not a scared little girl anymore, she told herself. By focusing her attention on this past trauma, Karen learned to reshape her brain's response to stress, quieting the emotional loops that had controlled her life for so long. Through this process, she was able to break free from her anxiety and build new, more confident patterns of behavior. Karen's story demonstrates how deeply our past experiences can shape our present-day reactions, and how with focused attention and mindsight, we can rewire these responses. Each key point, from rebuilding emotional connections to managing everyday frustrations and rewiring lifelong patterns, is brought to life through real stories like Karen's. These moments of clarity remind us that change is possible, no matter how deeply rooted our struggles may seem. As the editor of Hardly, I believe the future of personal transformation lies in recognizing the profound connection between mind, brain, and relationships. By mastering Mindsight, we hold the key to reshaping our inner world and enriching our external reality